Hi folks, my name is Rohit Kakkar and I welcome you to this course on Python training in Q&A format. So continuing where we left last time, and the last two videos have been about understanding the column in more details. As you know that we are working with Netflix underscore titles dataset which has 7787 rows and 12 columns, and last time we understood the meaning of different columns in both English terminology standpoint and also in terms of what unique values are there in these columns, right? Now then the question comes is how to look at the fill rate of each column in dataset. As we know that there are null values, there are different types of unique values in the column field. So my intention is to see how much the columns are filled properly and are there any null, nan or none values in the column, so that I am aware of the errors in the dataset and I can consider this as limitations, and I should be aware of this while working on any analysis, right? So what I'll do df.info. So I've already run the previous cells and now I am running this function df.info, which will give me for each of the column how many values are there in those columns, and if there is null value then it will give me number which is less than the total number of rows in the data set. So as you can see, show id is completely filled. It has 7787 values. Now this could be unique values or there could be repetition as well, but it is totally filled. There is no null, no nan or no none values in this column. Then type is also completely filled, title is also completely filled, director is 5398. So there are lot of null values in director where we don't know who the director is, and we saw this in the sample of the data set as well when we did the head, right? Then caste is also not completely filled, then country is also not completely filled, date added only one missing value I guess, rating is also has few missing values 7, rest duration listed in description, everything is filled. Okay, so this is how we look at the fill rate of each column of the dataset using .info function. Now you are seeing this column as D type and you see values like object, int 64 and so on. So D type is nothing but the data type of the columns in the data set. Now what is data type? So data type could be a string which is mostly text, but it could be numbers as well. If I provide this as a single quote or a double quote, then int 64 means numbers, whole numbers 1 2 3 4, minus 1 minus 2. Float 64 is the numbers with decimal points, and then I have different data types like boolean, true or false. Then I have data type like date time, where the values in the column would be related to date time. So how can I look at d type of each of the column in the data set? So one way is through info, but I can also use this function df.dtype. I think it's df.dtypes. Let's see. Okay, now this function df.dtypes or this method is specifically to look at different data types which are there of the columns in the data set. Now what do we mean by object? So object is a very interesting data type that we have here, and this object is something which we can assign any data type to it. We can assign string to it, we can assign int to it, we can assign float to it. So object is like a base of all the data types. Mostly this appears when the value of the columns are considered as string. Okay, so when we hear string, it usually comes to our mind that the values of the column would be text. It would be alphabets, characters, words and so on, but it's not necessary, right? So as you see, the date added is also object, but ideally this should be a date time data frame. So I can convert this object into date time data frame. How we'll do that, I'll show you in the next few videos. And release year is the only one which has int, so I'll know release year would be what, 2000, 2020, 2021 and so on. Listed in description, duration, Now duration could also have been an int, but it has minutes in it, right? So it has been given object. Now I can convert this object to a string, I can convert it to a date time, and I can convert into a float as well. Now show ID has S1, S2, S3, S787. Now if this would have been a serial number sort of thing, it could have been int64 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 7787. Then type we know is TV show, movie. Again, it's a string, but it has been called as data type object so that based on my requirement, I can convert it to string, int, float, datetime, boolean, and so on. So we'll talk about these data types in more detail, but this video was about how to look at the fill rates using info function. And since we have got dtype as well as the column as the output of info function, I've shown you how to look at data types of columns in the data set, and how to work with these data types we will look in the next video. Thank you, all the very best.